Hello, I never know how to start these videos. This video is a part of ShakeTube, a read-along, which I think lower caste books and the Curtis Books and Films are hosting, a read-along of Shakespeare's plays. And this play is the first one, The Taming of the Shrew, which is a comedy. I read it in English and then I read it in Russian in translation of Gnedich, and I like both of the version. I like the translation so much that I actually cannot choose one over the other. They were wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. First of all, I know that some ladies a bit reluctant to read this play because they do not like the subject matter. In short, we are in Italy, in Padua, and there is a noble father, Baptista, who has two daughters. The younger, called Bianca, and she is everything a parent can dream of. She is very well behaved, she is very beautiful, and she has two suitors who are after her, and she is also very well brought up, and she knows how to present herself in public. But Katharina, the older daughter, is very different from her sister. She is opinionated, and she is very rude at times. She is a shrew. She speaks what she thinks and never checks herself. So he cannot he cannot marry away his younger daughter until his older daughter is married. And he decides to lock them up until his older daughter, Katarina, is married. One of the Bianca's suitors, who is called Gartenzio, has a friend, Petruccio, who comes to Padua to marry, and he tells about it very openly, very directly, that he wants to marry money. And Katarina is quite rich, and it is decided between friends that Petruccio will marry Katarina so that Gartenzio could marry Bianca afterwards. And Petruccio marries Katarina, and then he tames her. He changes her into this well-behaved, modest wife. And that's why some women don't like this play. But I was never good at reading between lines, but I'm willing to try. First of all, if all the women in England at that time were, I don't know, very obedient to their husbands, were maybe beaten into submission, This play would not have been written, I suppose. So I kind of assume that England was full of spirited women. Some of them were shrewd, and to tell it, to tell the truth, there was a part in this comedy when I was shocked and worried. There was a place when I thought that Petruccio can hit Katharina, but to praise him, although she strikes him, he never strikes her back. And I'm not exactly sure that Katharina was changed. She just learned how to live with her husband so that everybody would have been happy. Something like that. And I want to tell that in this play, in this comedy, there is a funny story for everyone, you know, for a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker. There were funny moments for the simple people, and there were funny moments for the very well brought up noble ladies and gentlemen. I I was amazed how much should you know to understand this play entirely, I suppose. I it was probably a mistake from my part reading Shakespeare before I read Iliad and Odyssey, um, because I do not actually remember all these Greek and Latin names for Greek and Latin gods. I do not remember those, and I do not know Italian. I do not know Latin, and there were replics in Italian. There were sayings in Latin. There were references to different legends, to different historical, mythological characters, which I did not get. And I googled some of them. Unfortunately, I think it was one of the name for the Aphrodite. I'm not sure. So never ever do it at home in front of your children. Caesarea probably it was. Never mind. I was amazed how well this play was thought through. That it was something for everybody from the audience. And it was full of word plays. And I very appreciated the decision of the translator into Russian when he didn't actually translate word for word, but he went for the preserving wordplay. So he changed the wordplay in English that cannot be preserved in Russian for something else, for another wordplay in Russian. And I enjoyed very much. Although I didn't quite get why it's a play in the play, because the play starts with a lord playing a joke on a drunkard. And then those characters are kind of lost after scene one of the act 1, because the whole Italian story is a performance by a troupe that visited this lord while he is playing a joke on this drunkard, trying to convince him that he is not a drunkard, but he is a noble lord who is sick, who was mad for some 7 years, and who thought that he was a poor man and drunkard. Well, I'm not sure why these characters are in the play, but Curtis, from Curtis Books and Films, says that it probably was lost. He read not only the play but also some of the materials, some forward to the play, and he says that different directors used these two characters in different ways. They kind of took liberties with them. I will link all the channels down into info box below. And I also watched a movie adaptation, a very old Russian black and white movie adaptation of 1961, and I quite like their interpretation. I like the fact that when Katharina and Petruccio sees each other for the first time in this movie, you can see that they actually like each other from the first glance. But Katharina, she cannot help being Katharina. She just cannot keep her tongue behind her teeth. She just cannot help it. And then when he starts to comparing her to the Diana, she kind of like it because he is eloquent, he is quick-witted, he is a very clever person. And to tell you the truth, from the entire cast, he was, I suppose, the only one good-looking person. So he was probably the first clever, good-looking, and noble enough man Katharina meets. And she likes him, but she cannot help herself. She cannot come second. She needs to lead. She needs that her word would be the last word. It's very funny. Also, her sister Bianca, in this Russian interpretation of 1961, she is not exactly a perfect young woman. She is not exactly a perfect child. She is one of these well-behaved children which have some sort of reputation with their parents. One of those children that in the eyes of their parents can do no wrong. And she is taunting her sister, and she actually starts most of the scraps, most of the fights with her sister. But because she's so well behaved in public, her father cannot believe that it's her fault. That's why Katharina is bitter and probably angry. Although the part when she's tamed, she kind of got tired of this constant fighting on this erratic behavior of her husband, and she just says, well, have it your own way. I wash my hands of you. Do whatever you want. She's just got tired. I don't know. The speech, this speech, which is infamous when she teaches other wives to be perfect wives. I don't know. It left me, well, completely cold, because it's just one side of the argument. It's the vision of one man. It doesn't mean anything. because you know, in our country we have quite old sayings. First one says that the husband is the head and the wife is the neck, and neck decides which way the head looks. So which way necks turn, the head turns the same way. um, it's uh, it's kind of um, expected when a son marries. Everybody kind of a bit worried uh, what this girl, what this woman will do next. Will she make the relationship with his family stronger, or will she take him away from the family? What it's going to be. And we also have a saying that there is no harm in dreaming. So you can dream, but not all of your dreams are going to come true. And the most recent one is never ever try it at home. So I quite enjoyed the play. Some passages I loved very, very much. And I suppose it was kind of quote ready. There are so many very short but very deep phrases and thoughts that can be quoted in real life, can be, you know, remembered and used in certain occasions. Uh, as I have already said, I liked it very much, and I'm going to continue with the read along. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and happy reading.